Back up and going with Major League Soccer this weekend. New York Red Bulls down in Charlotte. Will, appreciate you hopping on, giving us a couple minutes. Both of these teams right in similar spots. It's been almost a month, 20-something days in between games, 24, 25 days. I'm sure both ready to see if they can ramp up what will be an important 9 games. And overall, if you look at the Eastern Conference standings and schedule, this game has a ton of meaning for both of these teams.
It's very much a six-pointer, Matt, and I think the thing that you mentioned, the value of rest versus rust, I think is kind of the big thing you look at with both teams because Red Bulls played their last game one day before Charlotte FC did. So you're talking about a 24, 25-day layoff, and even Dean Smith said, while it might have been nice to go for a trophy, they needed that rest to kind of break up the season. He's almost kind of treated this like a second preseason. And for players who have come in as incomings like Tim Ream, it is a preseason for him. So I think it at least is a good reset for the season. But I'm with you. I think we're both kind of itching to see what this means for both sides in a very hotly contested race in the Eastern Conference. I think, the top 6 teams in the East, I think, have differentiated themselves from the rest of the pack. I mean, you've got obviously Miami and the 2 Ohio teams, and us with the 2 New York teams. I think it's very interesting, and I think these 6 will all be kind of jockeying for position in a hotly contested stretch run.
When you think of it, you mentioned the name Tim Ream, someone Red Bull and their fan base very familiar with going back several years ago. That's a guy, important signing, right? Still has so much to offer, so much to give, whether it's at the club level or even on the international level as well. What are the expectations you think for him to come in and almost plug and play a little bit, I would think, right?
Well, I think the expectation is for him to play. I don't think you bring in a guy like that, and obviously, anybody who listens or watches this knows his quality, not just from his time at Red Bulls, but as you mentioned, his time internationally. And I found that interesting. He said to us earlier last week that there's no reason to think that he can't still contribute internationally too, which I think is an incredible thing to think about when you think about the 2026 World Cup. But the baseline expectation here is he brings leadership. He brings, I think, some competence to a back line that, quite frankly, had a lot of it early on in the season. I think there had been some slippage over the course of the weeks that leaded up to the Leagues Cup, and then during the Leagues Cup, there were some goals conceded that I feel like were very uncharacteristic. That doesn't necessarily fall 100% at the line of Andrew Privet. I know there was some individual errors on his end and a couple of others from, the collective and just some man marking issues that Dean Smith felt like these next couple of weeks, or these last couple of weeks, I should say, were big to kind of go off of. But when you bring in somebody who's a U.S. men's international, something that Dean Smith has said that he wants to see more of in this league, I think you definitely go ahead and do it. And I think he's going to bring, for what is a very young club, a sense of credibility and somebody who knows how to see out games and obviously be a stalwart at the back. And also, one of the things that Dean likes about him is that he is a left-footed center back. He's always wanted somebody who has that profile as a left-footed center back to kind of give you that balance on both sides. And I'm very curious to see how it fits Charlotte FC's game model.
Seems like it was a long time ago when these teams first played at the beginning part of the regular season. Give me a sense of what is different with the Charlotte team now from when Red Bull played them months ago.
Well, obviously, the big insertion has been Karol Swiderski back in after he finished his loan term in Italy. I think the one thing that we're very intrigued by when it comes to the front line is the fact that 2 of Charlotte FC's designated players get to play on the field together for the first time, with Liel Abada coming back from the Olympics and Swiderski coming back, really having only played 3 games since his return. He played the final game before the Leagues Cup break against Austin, got himself a penalty spot goal, played off the bench in the first Leagues Cup game in Philadelphia, and then started against what was a very, very tough Cruz Azul side, got himself a penalty spot goal there as well in the shootout. But I think the real big thing is trying to see where that chemistry has grown over the course of the last 3.5 weeks. He's had the ability to train fully with the team for really the first time since the preseason. And I think, too, getting that symbiotic relationship with Abada and whoever they place in that number 10 role, I think is a big intrigue because Charlotte FC did sign a number 10 during the summer transfer window in Pep BL. I don't believe he'll be able to be ready to go on Saturday just because of the international transfer certificate having still being put through the process and the visa still being put through the process. But he should be a very big contributor for Charlotte FC down the stretch. I'm curious to see whether or not they go back to Brant Bronico in that role at the 10, kind of being a pseudo 10, but also being somebody who can really help at the top of the press. Or they bring in somebody off the bench like a Nikola Petkovic or a Ben Bender, who brings a little bit more of an offensive way of doing things and a little bit more creativity there. They obviously love what they have with Ashley Westwood in the defensive midfield, and both Gianni and Bronico have done well playing those spots alongside of him. But I think it creates a lot of intrigue going into at least how this next game or two will go, because the person who's in that spot knows he's playing for a position that will eventually potentially go to a designated player, and they want to make sure that they impress Dean Smith as much as they possibly can to get a bench role in replacing Beal when he's able to make himself available.
In what's been one of the better home atmospheres in Major League Soccer, Red Bull would down in the Queen City take on Charlotte. We'll appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes here, and look forward to seeing you over the course of the next couple of days in person.
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate you.